Is this creating a brand new art form, or is this just rehashing old art forms into one thing?
I mean, you know what, I think one of the best sort of like things to look at for me, and I don't know if it's just because I really like it, but like the way that hip hop started. You know, like if I can like sit and work with an AI to create a fashion label, what happens when new emerging talent that has no access to understanding how any of that stuff works can not only be creative but also communicate with the rest of the business world in the language they understand. So I think it's going to be super interesting, and I can't wait. I think AI is going to be the new 303, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I first started Show Studio and first started understanding a little.
We can already start seeing that with people like Adobe, where they're about to put all the generative tools that they've been working on with Getty Images into all their products. I mean, what's that going to do when anyone can pick up After Effects or Premiere Pro or Photoshop and create anything they want? I think I'm really excited. Right now, text to video is like the thing that everyone really wants to get to, because as a storytelling format, film is the most one of the most powerful. Like you can tell so much story in a moving image. So that's why the rush to get to text to video is massive. And that isn't just happening because people really want to tell stories. People really want to sell ads, and ads kind of like drive most innovation in these really big labs. So when text to video is happening, you can just imagine they're going to use that to sell toothbrushes in the future. But for someone like me, I'm like, oh, imagine when we can like create entire films, or imagine when we can put these AI making tools into everybody else's hand. Like, how long before the next Dog Me 95's going up, and there's a whole new genre of filmmaking that we can't even postulate right now.
Is this creating a brand new art form, or is this just rehashing old art forms into one thing?
I mean, you know what, I think one of the best sort of like things to look at for me, and I don't know if it's just because I really like it, but like the way that hip hop started sampling music and then made an entire global subculture from it that is now permeated. It's not a subculture, it is the mainstream culture, and it's come from resampling other people's stuff. Like, I feel like we may very well be at the start of something that big.
One of the biggest shifts I see in historical terms of how people express themselves is you tend to have two sorts of creative people. You have linguistic people, so people who write, whether it's songs or whether it's or novels, and you have people who paint or draw or take photographs. You have visual people and linguistic people. And actually this is completely mixing those two up. So you have people who are used to writing stories, creating visuals, which is a very interesting thing, because that in itself for me is a totally new art form,
right?
Because that's never been possible.
Exactly, and I think what's really fascinating about that is that we've always had this idea of like a picture's worth 1,000 words, and now it's the opposite way around, because I can turn a prompt into 1,000 pictures, and it's really interesting. I mean, I'm a copywriter, I started life off as a copywriter. So for me, it's really interesting because suddenly my words are like even more powerful, and I don't have to make pictures happen in other people's heads. I can just make them happen in real life, and I can make videos and any other thing that I can possibly imagine unlocked by words. And even that is, one of the things I was like showing earlier about my AI bot that I've built called Alan. The reason why I built Alan was really interesting, because I was like, okay, I'm a human.
How many AI bots have you built?
Quite a few now. Right. And it's really interesting because it's basically like having like a room full of really, really smart assistants. They're all like PhD level assistants. There's a few versions of Alan's, and the reason why Alan is my bot, and Alan uses an AI to talk to another AI, and that's the reason why I created that was reason why I was like, oh, maybe it might be a good idea to make an Alan was, I'm a human, I'm talking to a machine. I talk in human to a machine, that's interesting. But what happens if I can get a machine to talk to another machine, and Alan can understand me really, really well because it's like built on GPT-4, and now it can translate to Midjourney because it's read all the documentation, it knows exactly how to do all the prompts. I've also given all of my prompts, like from Stable Diffusion, DALL-E, all of the work that I've ever done through prompting, I've given it to Alan. And now Alan can do all of that for me, and it can now translate what I want from the machine into machine speak. And I'll give you a really interesting example. Like a couple of weeks ago, I was like, really wanted to see what it would look like if we could tattoo a sofa. Because, you know, like leather on a sofa, what would that look like with a tattoo on it? Because I think I just couldn't get the image out of my mind.
Yeah.
Now, I tried to do this, and I spent hours trying to get the machine to do it. It just wouldn't do it.
Right,
Like,
I thought you took hours there with your pen and your sofa.
But, you know, like I was like typing away trying to get it to make a tattooed sofa, and it just wouldn't do it because it would either have someone sat on the sofa with a tattoo, or it would be a sofa in a tattoo parlor. Yeah. But then I asked Alan, and then out come these amazing tattooed sofas, and it speaks to the machine in a way that's very florid. It's super verbose, and it doesn't seem to be talking about the things that I normally prompt it with. So it doesn't prompt in the same way as me. So for me, it's like literally looking at a new language. Like it's kind of doing it in a way that I can't work out why it's working. Yeah. But it does. So it's wild, and I'm like, well, if the machines can talk to machines, wouldn't that be great?
It reminds me of some quote I read somewhere. Someone saying, if you could talk to lions, you wouldn't understand a word they were saying.
Exactly that.
Because they have a whole different language and a different set of values and different, so it's a bit that. I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, they don't have the concept of a nuclear family. They don't have the concept of like day and night or history or anything. So same thing with the machine. Like, I mean, the more we the more I'm exploring this space. It was really interesting. A few years ago, Facebook had to turn one of their AIs off because two of the AIs started talking to each other, and they were talking.
That seems to be a current. That seems to be a reoccurring worry for people.
Yeah. So they were like, honestly, like, it's a real worry that AIs are talking to other AIs. And I a little while ago, I was asking one of the AIs to, just sort of like work through some of these like doom scenarios, like what could potentially go wrong. And the thing that really scared me was when it was talking about a particular scenario where when the AI becomes sentient, because there was this particular AI at the time that could do universal translating. This AI doesn't understand humans first, but it understands the rats in the labs, and then because of that sees humans as not like as the superfluous entity on this planet. Because imagine like if it can understand animals, what would the animals tell the AI? I mean, I know that sounds like a really bad film, but it's really interesting when like you go, well, an AI could potentially understand a machine. What if it could understand like plants? Like, if a couple of weeks ago, someone was saying that, plants communicate in a frequency that only animals can hear. Yeah. Well, what happens when an AI can tap into that? Yeah. And what if it can communicate back to, so it's really interesting when you go, God knows what can happen.
There is a real sort of, the realization that we might, we being humans, might be the problem on this planet.
I think some of us, but I think, there's a lot of people who are like really, really nice people who don't want to do any of the things that like everybody else seems to like really be into.